the Rangers Journal now.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for those who have been waiting. Just a couple of minutes late this evening, as we got a couple of technical things sorted out. You're watching the Rangers Journal this evening, and another exciting evening of banter and opinions, all about the famous Rangers. I've got two great guys with me this evening. Neither of whom I think fill the bald quota that I've been reading about in the news. So a perfectly hairy group of Rangers fans this evening. And we're going to be talking about the squad post-January transfer window. So first, let me welcome Mitch to the show tonight. Hello, Mitch. How you doing?
All the better for seeing you boys. Always a pleasure, never a chore. It's been a wee while, Doug, since you and I have done one. I think, Ryan, it's probably been a couple of weeks since you and I have been on together.
I think so, aye.
Yeah, we're all in for a wee treat tonight there. Juicy, we might be the hairiest Rangers fans that we've got left.
At least a good to know there's at least still a few of us. And Ryan, welcome. How are you doing, mate?
Not too bad. How's it going? You okay?
Yes, not too bad, not too bad. So welcome to everyone in the comments there. I'm seeing people coming in, a lot of familiar names. John, RFC72, Gordon coming in there as well. Welcome, guys. Thank you for tuning in. If anyone else watching, you're not subscribed yet, straight away I'm going to just say please do subscribe. It helps us, the channel, to get the algorithm to go, oh, people like them, we should show them to more people. And it lets you know whenever we have all of our stuff coming out. If you click that little bell as well, you'll get notifications for all of our videos. As I say, for tonight, we're going to have a wee look at the squad post-January transfer window. It wasn't the busiest window in terms of incomings, but we did get quite a few bodies sort of in and out in combination. Looking back at the comments that the board made prior to the window, they did say we were only expecting one, maybe two, and we did kind of get 1.5 if you want to consider Lyle Cameron signing now but not coming till later. And obviously we brought in Fernandez on loan with an option to buy. But we also got a few bodies out the door as well. Some of the bodies that have been sitting, getting well paid but not necessarily well played. And so a few of them have gone out, notably Ravi Matondo, who sauntered just straight into Hanover and started scoring goals immediately, because of course he did. But yeah, so we're going to have a wee look at the squad, see how they've been doing the first half of the season, how we think things will pan out in the second half of the season, and the new boys, and what we think of them. So we'll jump straight into it. We've got a slide here with the squad. I've not got absolutely everybody. I have missed out some people that are still technically our players, but aren't really in the squad because they're away on loan. So, for example, players like Davies, Matondo, and Kieran Dowell, who's already has completely disappeared from my mind, happily. And I've also limited I think, majoritively players who have played more than 5 games, although there are a handful in there that I've kind of kept because I think they're kind of worthy of discussion. For those who are taking a look, we've got the top line in terms of the sort of info for each player shows you how many times they've been in the matchday squad. The number beside the P is the actual games they've played, and then their goals and assists underneath, and for the goalkeepers, their clean sheets. And the bigger number in yellow is I put out a wee poll to the guys sort of within Rangers Journal and asked them to kind of rate the squad on how they think they've done so far this season. So these are the average results that came from that. So first of all, if I just sort of open it up just generally, first to yourself, Mitch, looking at those kind of stats there, is there anything that kind of stands out to you? Any surprises that you maybe hadn't thought of or anything like that?
Do you know what? I think the only thing that kind of stands out to me, especially when I look at the keepers, is both of them have got a similar games to clean sheet ratio of about 1 and 2. I know Liam Kelly's sample size is much smaller, obviously, to work on, but his sample also came during probably one of the busiest periods in the season as well. I do think he was probably done slightly dirty by not starting the Man United game, and I think he'd probably earned the right to start that Man United game, but that's just a personal gripe that I've had, since that match day lineup came out, where, Jack had been out for about 7 weeks roughly, not quite as many as 7, maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. I feel like it was a bit cheeky to put him in the squad there, obviously, when he hadn't actually, played some of the previous games either. So, but I think when you look at our squad on a surface level, we have some incredibly talented players, and we've got a squad that we've been crying out for, which is a blend of youth and some experience in there. Obviously, we've got some older heads like Butland in the back there. We've got Liam Kelly. We've got everyone's favourite Boo Boy Tav. We've got the likes of Cerny up top there. We've got some experience within there, but also some of the youngsters with good experience, like Nico Rashkin in there. We've got boys like Danilo in there. We've got guys like Cortez who have got some good pedigree coming into us. Don't get me wrong, that's one of the worst pictures of Tom Lawrence you could ever pick there. Looks like an ostrich, isn't it?
These are all the photographs that are used on the transfer market, so I do not take responsibility for their solution or for their selection, I should say.
Ostrich Lawrence coming in at the 10.
Yeah.
No, my God,
as people will be able to hear there, a wild Scotty has appeared, as they would say in Pokemon. Evening, Scotty, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Thought I would nibble into be your fourth person.
To be fair, you did meet the quota, though, of the Baldwin Rangers fans that they were talking about the other day.
I'm actually growing my hair back, I love, you can keep that bald stuff to yourself.
Have you told your hair that you're growing it back?
If fullbacks are still playing quite high up.
Okay, what about yourself, Ryan? Looking at that, we'll give Scotty a bit of a chance to have a wee look through it before I come to him. Have you any sort of just general thoughts on the squad or any of the numbers that you're seeing there?
No, to be honest, no surprises there at all. I think that's kind of about as honest and as fair as you can make it. Maybe a wee bit harsh on Robin Proper, but I don't disagree with any of the other numbers, to be honest with you.
Okay, and Scotty, what about yourself? I was just explaining to the folk there, you've got your numbers in terms of squad appearances, actual appearances, goals and assists, and the yellow numbers there, the average scores of the result of the poll amongst the crew. So anything stand out to yourself or you think kind of sticks out on general viewing? You're on mute still.
Come on, you're not off to a flyer here, son.
It's because you're on with me. Leon King 2.5 is a bit poor. Whoever voted for him in the chat needs to fucking arse scalped, if I'm being honest.
I agree with you, mate. That's too much.
Aye, it's poor.
that is a bit brutal on young Leon, I'll be honest. Whoever did that, needs to have a lot of senior management.
It's not fair on him at all.
I think it is more reflective just of his lack of game time than anything else.
Tav playing at a 6.5 is probably fair because of his slow start of the season. I think that's fair to say. Hadji 7.5. Maybe I went a 7. Desser's 7.5. Come on, Christ.
I didn't vote.
Aye.
I wasn't allowed to. It'd be 10 all round.
10. I know. Voted 10.
Maybe an 8.5. It had a wee honking patch there.
Agaman's definitely an 8.5. Agaman's been brilliant. Cerny's been very good as well. Nah, pretty much agree with that, to be honest with you, Doug. Like I say, the ones at 2.5, there's not really any need to it, to be honest. Who's the guy underneath Tab? We had this discussion all night.
John Sterling.
Sterling.
It's a younger photo of him. I think that's right.
2.5 for Sterling as well. Come on, he's played fucking right mid, centre back, right back, left back. Still this season, is he still?
I know like he's no
Does that want a 2.5?
I think that again reflects more the fact that he's been unavailable so frequently. I think if you look at all the lowest scores, it's predominantly players that have been injured.
King 2.5 and 9. There's hundreds of them.
Yeah, because if you look at them like King, Sterling, Cortez, Lawrence, Danilo, all the players with the lowest scores, Redvan as well. It's all the players that have been injured. So I think that's obviously hitting heavy in people's minds, which is fair enough. At the end of the day, a player that isn't available is no good to us. Okay, so there's a couple of particular players I thought would be worth talking about. Seeing as we have Mitch on the show, we'll start with the man, the myth, the legend that is Dessers. We've given him as I say, kind of an average 7.5. There, I think you look at the goals again. He's top of our scoring charts with 18 in all competitions. Also in the top 5 for assists with 6 assists as well. Not something that we really talk about, I think, an awful lot about Dessers, but he does chip in his fair share in that regard as well.
I will say we'll call it 5 assists because there was one that he definitely didn't mean it hit off his backside and he get credited for the assist. And I will say...
You have to be there. You have to be there. So
right, but cheats don't count, do you? Come on now, behave.
I can't believe you, of all people, are arguing against giving him points for something.
Right, no, but, I will say, but if we go by the raw numbers there, that's 24 goal involvements from a striker who is our third choice striker in some fans' eyes. Scotty, I'm looking at you. But
who's also played as a first choice striker for a big part of the campaign.
But again, the numbers don't lie. He bangs in 18 goals across all comps, 5 assists. I think 7.5 is fair because what we've had with Dessers, and we'll no hark on the previous points before of, we get what we get with Dessers of he's either an absolute worldie where he's on form, and when he's off form, you know what I mean? Me and Ryan may as well be playing up top, you know what I mean? We're about as mobile as that. You know what I mean? See, get the guns out, right? But genuinely, I think as a 7.5 is also a fair reflection of his contributions to the team because whenever Agamani will take games that, due to his age and inexperience, he'll have games where he will dip out of and he won't be as effective on. Danilo, we're still trying to establish if he's made of biscuits or if he is in fact a human being. That means that other striker that's in there, you imagine the pressure that would have been on Igamari on his own if there was no Dessers in there to come in there and say, look, it's all right. These games that, I call it the sticky games, some of these away European games and stuff, that's a hell of a pressure to put a young 21-year-old boy under when this is why you pay what you have to pay for a third choice striker who is an internationalist. He's in his prime years. And he will bang in the goals as many comes, as many needs to. He scored in the Champions League qualifier, Europa League. He scored against every team domestically in the SPFL. Can't really ask for much more from him. And we also had a hattie out of him already this season. Nearly a perfect one. Scotty's human, I can see it.
I'll come to you, Ryan. I sometimes wonder, is Dessers partly a victim of circumstance in that, a lot of the things we talk about that he doesn't do so well are the additional parts of the game. We all know he can score goals, but because we play with the one up front, and particularly in Europe where we need someone to hold up the ball, and he's not generally been as good at that. Although I must say, for example, against Man United, he was excellent. So is there a little bit that he's maybe just a victim of circumstance in that he doesn't fit the way that we play? And that maybe if we played a system that had a more supportive secondary position, he would do better. So I'm thinking, for example, if you could go back in time and take Chris Boyd and put him in this team, would he end up in the same position as Dessers because he'd score loads of goals, but he wouldn't give you anything else?
See the goal that he laid on for Cerny the other night against USG. Chris Boyd would never do that in a million years. Never in a million. Run the channel that he did, beat the fullback and cross the ball. Boyd didn't have that in his locker. So, I love a big man, to be honest with you. And I shouldn't say this to Mitch because he'll end up in the Mitch fan club. Right? Having the vice president, you'll be the president.
It's a good thing Scotty's away right now.
Right.
Oh no, he's back.
Scott, just mute yourself, mute your headphones for a couple of minutes.
Yeah. The big man's a big trier, right? And he tries, and it's hard because he's got a touch, like I say, at Raylan sometimes, but sometimes you're looking like that, unbelievable. I'm glad we kept him, to be honest with you. I don't think we can trust Danilo's fitness, and I'm worried about might overplay Eagleman as well. So I'm delighted he's still here. I just wish we could just iron out the creases with him. You know, the silly misses against Fraser, you know, the poor touches and stuff that he does, but his fitness records, yeah, it's hard to explain how you feel about him, but I'm glad he's still here. I think we will sell him at the end of the season and look to trade him in for a younger model, to be honest with you, but I'll go with my best wishes if and when it happens, but his numbers don't lie. I mean, even his numbers last season were pretty good as well. So it's consistency we're needing from. We need him to keep producing it more and more, and stop the crap that he produces sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You know, on the whole, I like Dessers, mostly because of his attitude. You know, he's faced a lot of criticism. He's been booed from the stands at times. But you know, he's always got a smile on his face. He's a little bit Sakala-esque, in a way. Not quite as happened perhaps, but he seems to always be positive, looking at things positively. He wants to do well for Rangers, and you can't really ask too much more than that. I do believe that regardless of whether he's had a great game or an awful game, that he's tried his hardest. And again, I think, you know, there's a lot to be said for that. We've had players that don't always fit that mold. And if he was younger, I would be more inclined to say we should keep this guy because he's always fit and he scores regular goals. I sometimes feel that we sometimes want to pigeon players into this first choice, second choice, third choice, whereas I feel the modern game is more just about your squad. It's not so much first, second, third choice. It's we have a selection of strikers, of which we'll use in various ways throughout the season. And if he was maybe earning a little less, that would probably help given the current circumstances. But hey ho. I think the fact that he is older, I agree with you, Ryan. That we will sell him at the end of the season, and that'll be the right thing to do that as well, because he is valuable to teams. Teams will give us 3, 4, maybe slightly more million for him if he's chucked in a bunch of goals. And given his age, and the way we want our transfer model to work, I think that means it'll be the right time to sell him. Mitch, do you want to have the last word on him?
I've got a couple of points, and I'm also going to bring Scotty in on one of the points as well, because he's been awfully quiet there. And as the chairman of the CD9 Appreciation Club, I can't have that.
I've not been asked to come in. That's it.
Well, listen, you've been asked.
I was saving Scotty for players that he'd have nice things to say about.
I've opened the door for him now.
Bad stuff,
I've opened Pandora's box now. He's here now.
That's it.
So, right, the age thing with Essers, I'm parking it aside because he's in his prime and we can't just have a squad full of Waynes. Like, we've already got about 3/4 of a squad full of Waynes. Like, half of them haven't started shaving yet. You know what I mean? We do need some adults within the team. And at this point, we are goal contribution with coming in over once every game and a half when you look at the raw numbers there. You know, 24 goal involvements in the space of 37 appearances. Says it all. So, is there an argument that we still just keep him on for next year, which would be the final contract year? Is that right, Scotty?
I don't know, mate. I've not got me 32. Is it not a 4-year deal?
Worst case, he's still probably not going to be worth any less.
$4.5 million for him. I hope it was a 4-year deal.
He's still not going to be worth any less anyway, in my opinion. You know, next January.
May 2027.
So there we go. I've got plenty of time yet. I don't need to go bullshit stressing about him leaving. Like, but also, I mean, that when you're looking at that reliability record, and it's something that we bang on about with our squad overall, we need one fit striker who is there week in, week out, and who can help. Iggy, do you not think so?
Me?
Well, who else was I talking to?
Right, well, RFC 72 is giving me a really good point that keeping them can hamper Iggy's development now. I think it's fair to say in the last 2 matches that Dessers played, Mitch, is that when Iggerman's played out left, he wasn't great against USG and he wasn't great weekend either. I think Iggerman's better between the posts, and I think him scoring goals is where you're going to get the most money for him in the summer, which is where we are as a club. We need to get the best out of the likes of Iggerman and that to get money in, to kick this transfer model off, to sign better players, to become a better team, to start competing for trophies against them, being 13 points behind them. Dessers he's not the worst Rangers striker I've ever seen, right? But see the inconsistency of being unable to take a first touch, dribble a ball, standing up against his man he doesn't suit Rangers. Sometimes it just doesn't suit Rangers. He's either a 2 or an 8. There's no middle bearing with the guy, which is the most frustrating thing, which is my frustration with him, which is probably most of Rangers supporters' frustrations sit with him, because he's either brilliant or crap. There's no, he was alright today, he done his job for a team. Do you know what I'm coming for? And then he gets through a scoring streak where he scores 3 against Brazier, 1 against Man U, blah blah blah, and then folk are still banging on about him as if he's the answer, and he's not scored in 2 matches. Folk might remember that day. He's never scored against USG every weekend there. So while he gets through his purple patches, the purple patches aren't consistent enough for me, which is where my issues lie with him. See if he played like that every week, I would have see if we signed him for £2 million or $1 million. I wouldn't have one complaint about it, big man. It's the fact that with such a big outlay, and he's reportedly on 30 odd grand a week as well. Does he earn his money? Probably not.
So to hit you with the Uno reverse card, right? Is the biggest issue in our striking department not perhaps a Brazilian forward, Danilo, who throughout his time, and I get 2 of the injuries, the eye socket injury, not his fault. That could have happened to anybody at any time. You know, and again, I put that injury in box A because that is just one of these things that nobody could have seen coming. But then we look at, he's back out again, now with a shoulder injury, after doing the knee injury. So throughout his time, his availability, now Doug or Ryan might be able to tell us there, but his availability must be under 60% to the squad. So when we talk about value for money, which striker are we getting value for money from? The £6 million man or the £4 million man?
Granted, but I'll fling it back at you that none of these have been muscle injuries like Oscar Cortez. Absolutely none of them. His shoulder got done because of a tackle, because it's the physicality of the league. His knee get mangled away to Tynecastle because of a bad challenge, and he get his eye socket bulged at St Johnstone winning a header that he scored. That's just bad luck. That's not a bad injury record. That's bad luck. 2 completely different types of things. Cortez got injured in training because of a contact injury. Done his hammy away to Kilmarnock, etc. Done it the same thing away to Tynecastle again. That's the issue I have with injuries. I've got nothing against Danilo. His availability's not been great, but it's also not his body breaking down on him. It's the league that's breaking his body down, if that makes any sense.
But then that also brings you back to the point on the left wing aspect, though. Isn't this the reason why we found Igamani out in the left wing, because we don't have any fit left wingers?
Hadji by Rami. Your thing, man, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, you're square pegs round holes. You're not going to fix the left wing position unless you just put Finlay Curtis out there and say that's your position at the end of the season. And
I think that probably speaks volumes for how mismatched the squad itself is right now in certain departments.
But how's this compared to Dessers?
Because he's still the best. But anyway, we'll move on.
Touching on that point about Eggman, I think he likes to play him on the left because he's the best at coming in from the left into an attacking position to score goals. If you look at quite a few of the goals he scored, he's done exactly that. So, for example, the Nice one, he's on the left-hand side where he nicks the ball off the lad, drives in and scores. He's done that a couple of times. So I think that's why he chooses him, because he's got that little bit more mobility than Hadji and maybe Barami as well, who both, I think, are at their best when they're central, although Hadji, I think, is staying a lot to the wing.
I think Igaman would be alright if he left if come on, gave him licence to roam. The issue is he's been stuck out in that left wing and forced to do a bit of defending as well, which isn't bad for a boy learning. But let him interchange with like a Cerny and whoever's in the 10 role, and then I think you'll see maybe an impact on games. Ryan, were you wanting to come in? Sorry, mate. Me and Mitch were up and one.
No, I wouldn't interrupt you. It's just on that point that Dessler staying is basically, stumping Eagleman's development. I really disagree with that, sorry. If you think about if Dessers wasn't there, you're putting a really kind of heavy can in Eagleman's hand and asking him to basically carry the whole striking force of the club. And what happens if, we could be guilty of overplaying him? He's still just a young guy. We didn't start him for the first 2 months of the season because he wasn't ready. So what happens at some point in the next few months he gets a wee niggle and we start overplaying him? He ends up bursting his knee like we've seen with Cortez. Next thing you know, you've got £20 million sitting in the physio table because he's getting overplayed. We had to keep Dessers to give us the option to actually pull Bajrami out the team. Something I don't want to see Bajrami on Sunday playing against Queen's Park. because we seen what happened to Yanis Hadji playing against Stirling Albion at Ibrox. They lost him for a year because of it. So I don't want to see Giovanni anywhere near the team on Sunday, to be honest with you. I want to see somebody like Dessers playing, a couple of the squad players playing. So I disagree. I can understand the thought process of it because they're maybe thinking Giovanni's not going to get the opportunity to play at number 9 and play in his natural position. But I disagree with the fact that it's going to stop his development. I don't agree with that.
I think as well you can add to that the point that Dessers is obviously an experienced international striker, so you'll have a lot to teach Egerman as well. I mean, Dessers, no doubt, I think will have good knowledge of the game. Just because he necessarily maybe doesn't have the skills, you could maybe teach things and tell things to Egerman, who then maybe does have the skills to do some of those things, and so you could teach him stuff as well. I think for me, so
Morelos came on when Defoe was signed. Morelos' finishing came up tenfold when Defoe was signed.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Good example. I think for me, when it comes to like the strikers as a whole, I think ideally a balance. If long term Dessers, and I'm getting to the point now where I think we're maybe going to need to get rid of Danilo as well, because if you can bring in two strikers that are maybe roundabout as good, but both are available, you'll probably end up, the things will balance out. You might not get as many goals out of a striker as we're getting from Dessers, but you'll get more goals than we're getting out of Danilo, and so the two will cancel each other out, and then maybe we'll end up with something that everyone's happy with. But we'll go from there. Okay, so we've kind of touched on all three players in that fourth pillar there, so let's touch on the fourth one there, who I think is one of the contenders for Player of the Season so far, in Václav Cerny. He's played 36 of the games that he's been available to play when he's been in the squad. 13 goals, right behind Dessers there, and 7 assists, which is second highest assists. Cerny for me is everything I've been wanting in one of our attacking wing players, and that he's available. He's been fit the majority of the time, and he actually contributes high levels of goals and assists, which I think has been a large thing that's been missing from the team. So I'll come straight back to you, Ryan. What's your thoughts on Cerny in terms of how he's done, and do you think he's someone we should consider trying to get, albeit that he's a potential expensive signing?
Yeah, I think in today's market, £7 million for a player like that, I think's worth it, to be honest with you. We've very much had the try before you buy with them. And I'm very much in the buy camp at the moment. I know obviously it's £7 million is a lot of money, but we have spent money on players. You're talking about £6 million for Danilo, who for me at this moment in time hasn't represented much value for money. I would like it to see him. I think he's got a great character. You see, obviously there was an incident, I think it was against Aberdeen at Ibrox, where he took a bit of stick from the main stand and he's throwing his hands up in the air and stuff, and ultimately gets substituted. His Rangers career could have went a really dark path at that point, but it didn't. He's came from a boo boy that day to being one of the fans' favourite. So I think he's done well overall, absolutely fine. I still think there's more to come from him, to be honest. I still think he does have his quieter games, and he does have his flaws in his game. I do find him very left-footed, to be honest with you. If there was a flying right fullback beside him that was overlapping him, I think we would get a bit more out of him. I think you see a different dimension to his game. A younger version of Tavernier, like a Nathan Patterson kind of style player that would be able to come up the right-hand side. If he is wanting to cut in his left foot, he's got the option to carry on or pass. So, but overall, season-wise, for a loan signing, I don't know what we're paying for the loan. I don't know how much of his wages were covered, but from a football sense, I've been really happy with him. And I hope we make it permanent.
What about yourself, Mitch? You similar, or you think he'd be too much money?
Oh, I'm team bald wingers only, all the way. Like, streamlined, aerodynamic wingers, that's what we're after. Quick as a whippet, skillful with 2 feet. And I think, he also looks, and I think when it comes to talking about player transfer values and stuff like that, I think we live in a kind of a really weird marketplace that everybody seems to think £7 million for a player's a honkingly expensive amount of money. It's no really when you look at it in the grand scheme of football today. I'm not being funny, but you look at that young boy, Johan Daru, who went over to Saudi the other day for 72 million, and he's barely kicked his own backside, in the game. I think when it comes to, Tierney's he's certainly not going to be short of options in the summer. And I do think we've probably got first dibs there, given the fact that he looks like he's genuinely enjoying himself here as well. His wife and him both look like they're quite happy. They're both quite settled here. And he made an interesting comment, was it pre-Christmas, when obviously the talk about, staying here permanently came up. He did basically say, watch this space, as if to say, there may very well be a gentleman's agreement in place with his current club or something about, it could be something as simple that we just go in and buy out what's left of his contract at Wolfsburg, which, if memory serves me right, is only about a year. After this summer, he's only got one more year. And I think I've made the point before where sometimes when you're on a squad rebuild, which if we're being, honest as the day is long, that is what we're on just now. Sometimes you need that investment signing, the signing that helps bring all the youngsters on around them. And he's that experienced player that brings on the likes of Diamande, brings on the likes of Rashkin, brings on the likes of Bailey Rice, by blending on that experience where, yes, we slightly overpay for him now, but that transfer money is repaid back tenfold within 18 months with player sales of the likes of Diamande, Bailey Rice, and those around him that he's helped to make better.
Absolutely. One thing I find quite interesting, Scotty, one of the things that sort of rumbled through the transfer window was the idea of Ryan Kent returning to Rangers. Ryan Kent, in terms of obviously what we paid for him, we paid about $7 million to bring him to the club originally. I think, Ryan Kent, when he was at his pomp, is kind of similar to Cerny. Kent maybe a bit more dynamic. One thing I'm not sure if a lot of people actually put this together because of Cerny's aerodynamic look, but Cerny's actually a year younger than Ryan Kent. So I find it interesting. A lot of people are really keen for Ryan Kent to come in, but then I've also seen them say that they wouldn't be interested in bringing in Cerny on a permanent deal. Do you think there's, comparisons between the two? And where do you sit on the Cerny-Yearney?
It's a good comparison now that you mentioned that Kent's actually a year older than Cerny. I think it's mainly due to the fee. I think that's what's coming down into most. Cerny's not exciting, right? Cerny will get you assists and get you goals. He'll be effective on the pitch, but he's not the type of winger that's going to do a trick, skin somebody. He's going to knock the ball by somebody and run on it, etc. But he's not going to get bums off his seats apart from when he's actually putting the ball in the back of the net or providing an assist, which is not a bad thing, right? But he's an unattractive prospect because of the fee and because he's probably 27-year-old. We're all probably wanting Elisa Kent to come in and just, for those that do, I'm not saying I do, but for those that do want Kent to come in, probably just want him to come in because they know what they're getting and he's coming in a free contract. Whereas with Cerny, it's going to cost 7, 8, 9 million quid. West Ham were looking at him in January. There's suitors there for him. There's Premier League clubs that are interested in him, Doug. So I really can't see Rangers being in the mix unless it's the good old debate of player power over. He says, I want to go to Rangers, so it forces Wolfsburg hand. Let's be honest, we all thought Abdallah Sima was going to pull that kid in the summer, and he didn't. Because there was a difference in wages. Anybody that comes in needs to fit into this new wage structure. And is Cerny going to do that? I would imagine he's on a lot of money over at Wolfsburg. They're a big Bundesliga club. So do I want him to stay? Yes, but the finances would need to be right. Would I blow a transfer budget on keeping Cerny? No, because there's far too many other areas of the squad that need the money can be spent elsewhere and somebody younger can come in, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, all you need to do is look at one of our scouts, Gordon, loves a refineman. He plays over at plays in Malaysia for a club. They call him a Malaysian Messi. He's in a free contract at the end of the season. Mitchell backed me up on it. I said, boy, looks tremendous. Shin Yamada over in Japan as well. In fact, Gordon there, he's come right in. Can we just go and get a refineman? Like, that's a right winger that will come in and be more attractive to the fans. I'm not saying it's the right move. I just think for the money that Cerny will cost, I don't think Rangers are in that league yet. If we sell Ligaman for 25-30 million, then you could be looking at Sima and Cerny lining up next season. This is the kind of thing we need to
absolutely.
This is the kind of thing we need to. It depends how much we're going to get, who's going to kick this player trading model going. Once we sell a player for a big fee and the club go say to come on, here's 10 million for 2 players, you could get Seaman and Cerny for that together, surely. If that's what Clermont wanted to do. But it's all coming down to finances again, Doug.
That's the wet dream right there. Cerny, Sima and Igaman all up front there. And Dessers, Mitch as well. Okay, that's some good points made all around there. I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens come the end of the season on that one. Great player, definitely would do us a job, but can we make it work financially? So we'll go from seeing as my close friend Curry is in the chat there. Evening, Curry. Hope you're doing well. We'll go from attack to defence and talk about me and Curry's favourite Rangers player, James Tavernier. Had a poor start to the season. Don't think anyone would be foolish enough to say anything otherwise. He had an injury, obviously, in pre-season. Didn't really get the full pre-season sorted. So I think that affected the start to the season, and he's gone in and got taken out of the team when we had some cover. You people need to find some decorum here. Yeah? Poor Curry is killing the panel with his banter in the chat. So he ended up having to come out of the team for a wee bit. But since he's come back, he's had a marked improvement. As is the usual case, he leads the team in assists with 10 assists ahead of Cerny's 7. He's just outside the top 5 in goals at the moment. He's got 4 goals behind Diomande, and I should have actually included Tom Lawrence in that top 5 because he has 5 goals as well, so he's 5th equal. So again, he's chipping in. Don't say that, John. You'll have Curry. You'll have Curry on a bender if he thinks that's happening. So he's chipping in as he always does with his goals and assists. But what's your thoughts been, Ryan, on Tavernier's year? Not his best, but still contributing.
He's still doing enough. Just not his usual. Put it that way. But enough to keep his place in the team. I don't think there's anybody looking to rip the jersey off his back. To be honest with you, obviously we spoke about Sterling's lack of fitness. And to be honest, I don't think there's anybody in the current squad that could replace him at right back. So he's doing enough for me, to be honest with you. It's probably of all the positions in the squad that I want to see strengthened most. I think that's the one that we really need to be focusing our efforts on, and signing a really good, high quality right back. So I hope the squad, or the scouting squad, are actually out there looking for that. I'd still like to see him at the club next season. I believe it's his testimonial year next year. I think he deserves that for the service he's made to the club. Obviously, he's divided the support as far as that service is concerned, but still in the modern day, to stay at Rangers for 10 years, I think that needs to be recognised in some sort of capacity, to be honest with you. So I hope he gets a good few quid out of his testimonial if and when it happens. But definitely one for getting replaced, to be honest with you. But we'll see. The thing is that if you get somebody that at his back, I think sometimes you see the best of these players when they actually look as if they're going to start to lose. They actually get worried, and you still see that kind of wee bit more fight in them. So rather than being comfortable, so we'll see what comes of it. Overall, enough, but not as good as we expect from him.
Yep. Yeah, I'll move on. Have you gathered yourself, Mitch? Are you good? You good to go? So Mitch, as Ryan said, not been his best year, but he's still contributing. I totally agree. It's a position that we need to be looking to strengthen. Obviously, Tavernier, he's still got another year in his contract yet, so he could conceivably be here another year. Although I think he was close to leaving at the start of this season, and so could be that he leaves at the end of this one. what's your thoughts just on right back in general? The need to strengthen that and how Tab's done.
For me, Sterling's still my first choice right back when he's fit. And now, at his age, he's got a time to get a foot right up his jacksie, get himself sorted and get his fitness in order. Like, no being funny, he's either going to turn into a tremendous right back for us, or he's going to turn into Kamar Roof Part 2. Like, there's not going to be an in between with him. I think in terms of Tav's overall season, it's been a slow start. There's signs there that Father Time is catching up in terms of injuries now creeping in that he never had previously. And I think if he was to go in the summer, he would go with the best wishes. And I think that's a general sentiment, and I think he's done solid when he's had to come in at centre back this season. He's done well in the right back channel. Do I particularly want to see him in the, against pacey wingers? Absolutely not, because as we all know, my backside's not exactly the strongest in the world, and when I see a pacey winger lining up against Tav, it drops, But I think if he was to still stay here next season, if he can't find a club that matches the current wages that he's on, or he just wants to stay and he tells us all at the end of this summer, look, next year's the last year of my contract, we ride it down, and we're retiring at the end of the contract. Fine, fair play, that is what it is. Stay, retire where your family are happy. It is what it is. I don't feel overly strongly one way or another about it, but I think his job over the next 18 months, assuming that he stays to the end of the contract, his job is to help usher in the next right back. And I think that may very well come down to does he surrender up the captaincy in the summer? Potentially. Do we do with him that we've done with Ryan Jack in the past, where we maybe make him club captain as opposed to on-field captain? That's a conversation for, Scott's favourite man, favourite fellow bald man, that, to make that call in the summer. I think, for me though, we've seen enough maybe of him at centre-back to see, is that maybe where he potentially transitions to now? Where you go, tell you what, let some younger legs do the bombing down the flanks up and down all game and save your own legs. Because I certainly don't want to see Big Leon at the back next year. No disrespect to him, but I'm done with over 35-year-old defenders at this stage of my life. But that's a whole separate conversation.
Okay, and Scotty, if I broaden it up a little bit for yourself to the defence as a whole, we touched on like Sterling potentially coming in. I said at the start of the season I wanted Sterling to be really making his inroads to becoming a solid first team player, potentially in that right back role, starting to move Tavernier on. But for me, he's not doing it, and I feel like, given his age now, that I think we need to look to sell him, to be honest. We've obviously got a couple of bright spots though in Enciala, who's come in, done a really good job. We've got this other lad, Fernandez. How do you think we're doing generally in defence in terms of the potential turnover of Tavernier, potentially even Mitch mentioned there Balogun as well? Probably getting to the point where it's time to just say thank you and goodbye to him and let these younger players come through.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Doug, because Brian's right, the right back area needs major surgery in the summer. For me, Tav should probably have left in the summer there. For one, he doesn't fit in with the new wage structure at the club. It took him an awful long time to get going. Granted, right, he's come into a bit of form now, filling in at centre half, etc. I feel as if this is another year too late for Tav, just like we says about Borna and all the rest of them. That Glenn Kamara example, I feel as if he's going into that bracket now. I feel as if where Rangers are in this so-called rebuild, I think he's been here for the transition season to help it settle. I think to help it settle, there's going to be players that are a year experienced in a Rangers jersey next year, so there's not as much a need for Tav in the dressing room. So I would look to do some major surgery in that right back area. Dujon Sterling, again, it's one that's just not working. It's far too injury prone. Adam Devine's gone, so that leaves you with Leon King or Ridvan Yilmaz, and I don't want to see Ridvan Yilmaz at right back again. He's had one or two good matches, and the rest of him he's been absolutely awful. he's a left back for me, and that's that left wing I can put up with him a wee bit more. But Tav for me it's time to go to the end of the season, and good. It'll be interesting to see what Everton do with Nathan Patterson under David Moyes, if he's going to play or not. If he doesn't play, he could see maybe an option to come in on loan. If we're talking about Mitch, I'm still shaking your head, but if we're talking about signing Cerny and keeping this year and keeping that in, then Patterson should be a realistic target for me if he's going to come in on loan for a year. It's a name that's been linked and it's going to continue to be linked. So
personally, think that's a lazy link, but that's just my own personal opinion. Plus, on the positive side, young Nathan has been getting much more game time under David Moyes now.
That patches
I just think Sean Dyche just didn't like him because he had better hair than him.
That patches that up, but we need to go out and get a right back for somewhere. But just let him defend first. If he's good going forward, brilliant. But just bring in a defender that can run it.
Would you be up for taking Casemiro back on loan again?
No, purely on the Oscar Cortez basis. That's it. That experience has put me off doing anything like that again, taking a risk at that. We're not in a situation where we can spend money on risks like that. Just look at Cortez stuff. He's not kicked his own arse this season because his injuries last year.
I think the issue with Casa as well, though, is two ACL injuries before the age of 22. If the ACL doesn't go again, it'll be the muscles around it that goes. So before you know it, it starts to be hammy sprains, knee sprains, calves getting done. And I get that the option that we had to purchase him was only, I think it rumoured to be about 1.25 to 1.75 mil. I get that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but for the similar sort of money,
it could be for another Casemiro who's fit though. Somewhere
exactly,
in the world.
one that doesn't have ACLs made out of airbags.
Yep. Okay, I'll come up to you, Ryan, and get you back in on one of the other big talking points defensively has been with Jack Butland, to the point where people are now very much saying with gusto that they want rid of Jack Butland, which I personally think is incredibly quick on the basis of just a few poor performances. Obviously, the Man United game, he had what I think it was a really unfortunate slip up. It's just a really bizarre one. There's a reason why the Lukic one is a kind of a great story because it was such a bizarre thing. But it kind of overshadowed that he actually had a good game overall in the Man United match. He made quite a few decent saves. I personally just think he needs to get his head sorted and he will get back there eventually. What's your thoughts in terms of Butland? Are you in the sell him camp, or do you think we've got a good goalie there and we should persevere?
I'm kind of on the fence with him, to be honest with you. His form of late hasn't been great, to be honest with you. I think he's lost a lot of confidence, to be honest. I think we need to get a right settled back four in front of him for a good run of games, rather than the chopping and changing it. He's not had a good back four in front of him for a while now. Obviously, we spoke about the injuries and stuff, which sometimes can't be helped. So it just reeks of lack of confidence. The one that's come out, he's punched in his own net, screams lack of confidence. Why is he not coming out and just clearing it with his hand? An open hand rather than trying to punch it. There was one that somebody managed to get round him. I think it was in the European game against USG, where in normal circumstances he's coming up and he's putting it right out of the club deck. But somehow the boys managed to get in front of him and get round him for Tavernier to stop him. So, goalkeeping is a very much a kind of a confidence-led position. You do have ability and stuff like that, you do, but a lot of it's to do with confidence. If you get any doubt in your mind with your defence and stuff, it can hamper you so much. So he needs to play through it. I don't think Liam Kelly's the answer, to be honest with you. Mason Wind's probably going to hopefully become the number one at some point in the future. We could be talking 3 or 4 years away from that. I mean, obviously, Robbie McCrory was highly regarded and ultimately never made it. He's now at Kilmarnock. So the thing is that we might end up with a silly offer for Jack Butland. Somebody might rock up and say 12 million quid on the basis that he goes down to England and he's an experienced third choice goalkeeper or somebody, just purely in their kind of squad quotas and stuff. We've seen it often. Likes of Fraser Foster, Joe Hart, Scott Carson, have all kind of sat as experienced third choice
Carson's got
goalkeepers.
the greatest job in the world, but doesn't he?
Oh, aye, definitely. So
Is
somebody
it
might
just the
rock
two
up and
Champions
say,
Leagues he's got now?
Aye, 38 grand a week to sit there and just eat chips or whatever, like,
brilliant.
living the dream.
Brilliant. So, that might end up becoming Jack Butland's job for somebody. And somebody may just rock up and say, listen, we'll give you 10 million quid. And we can't knock that back. So, but it's a dangerous position to change as well, because you could end up just with an absolute calamity. Like, we look at Letizia for a start. A nightmare. Your goalkeeper is probably the most important guy in your team. And if you're not a good goalkeeper, you're risking a lot, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I mean, we've obviously been blessed, I think, over the last couple of decades, in fact, and had some really top keepers at the club. And they can be really difficult to buy and difficult to find. But I do agree, if someone came in north of 10 million, I think Butland has to go, just because of the money optics of that. We would be able to get in a decent replacement, plus another player, which for us would be invaluable. Mitch, where are you? Do you want to just sort of briefly say your thoughts on the Butland? We've had a few comments in there that people think that I'm being a bit generous and that it's been too long in terms of how many mistakes he's been making.
I think it's hard. It's a hard one to put in a complete quantifiable sense. We have been completely spoiled in our lifetimes with goalkeepers. When you look at the likes of Stefan Kloss, Ronald Waterhouse, don't get me wrong, we did have Big Wes in there in between, which was a white knuckle ride for all of us. And then we've had John McLaughlin, which, the least said about that, the better.
I thought he was a decent goalkeeper, West Fotheringham, to be fair.
That's like saying a Ford car's a supercar, mate. Like,
he's gone on and had a decent career as well. He played in the Premiership. So he's done all right for himself.
I'm just going to pretend that comment never left your mouth, but that's fine. We'll park that to the side for the moment.
We've certainly had worse anyway, put it that way.
But I think the problem with Butland is he carry dive to the left. At any shot that comes to his left, he kind of looks like a crash test dummy flopping about to the left. He looks absolutely honking. He's not strong enough in his box, in my opinion. For being a big unit, he's what, 6'3", 6'4", something like that. He's a big starting man. Get yourself up there. You know what I mean? Take one for the team, put it in the sore place. Like, ideally no between his legs, but you know what I mean? But he's had 5 wins, he doesn't need down there anywhere. Like, but you know what I mean? You take one for the team, you stick your body where it hurts. You can't concede at the level that we are and the level that we play at. You cannot concede goals like he did at Man United to slap the ball into your own net. That's embarrassing. And now, I'm not saying that by any stretch Jack Butland's washed, and I'm not saying that, you know what I mean, I'm not a big get him out Sharon, I've not sat there got the, the burning effigies out in the garden or anything like that, but I think when you look at player value, are we getting value for the money that we're paying for him? Probably not. And in all honesty, I think if an offer comes in north of 8 million or even 7 million, he's 2 years older than he is now, than he was when that Nottingham Forest offer came in for 15. And we know that he's got a howler in him. And again, that's maybe a bit of father time. It might not be. But maybe a team getting promoted up to the Premier League needs an English keeper or a solid keeper. He's now had 2 years of consistent first-team football under his belt. He's English. He's got, by Premier League terms, you could probably sign him for 40, 45 grand a week. Not particularly expensive for a Premier League team. I think in the summer, if there was an offer that made sense for all parties, absolutely. I do think the comments about him needing a proper settle back for make sense. Because that is what it is. But also when you're operating in the level that we're operating in, you need to be able to be adaptable. And I think Liam Kelly's certainly not the answer. Like big Liam, great backup keeper, great for the cups and things like that. But again, he's great maybe to have around in the locker room. Do I mind him dipping in for 5-6 games here or there if first choice keeper's injured or suspended? No issue with that at all. But he's certainly not my number one choice. And again, Liam, if you're watching this, don't shoot me or anything like that. But again, he's not my first choice. And again, that's just personal preference.
Scotty, so do you want to finish up any comments on Butland, and then once you've had your say on that, maybe take us into the midfield and any thoughts, any particular players you would like to highlight from the midfield?
Butland, if we get an offer near £5 million, I sell him for a simple factor. For the England stuff, his form's fell off a cliff. I don't think he's the influence that he once was. I don't think that he's the player that he was when he first came in last season. I think his confidence is shot. So that's where I would be considering the wage structure and stuff too. I think him and Tavernier at the end of the season gives you a full clean slate, because you've got guys like Diamande, Raskin, everybody else is ready to step up at the floor. Onto midfield, Raskin is somebody Mitch got laughed at the beginning of the season because Mitch says he could be worth £9 million. And he's probably proven himself right. Raskin's been absolutely outstanding this year.
Say it again, Scotty.
No, I've said it once, I'm not saying it again. Diamande is what he is. He's an enigma. Some fans like him, some fans don't. He just needs to influence matches more for me, and he needs to be shown to influence matches more with goals and assists and creativity. Connor Barron, solid enough signing, will come into his own over time. Tom Lawrence, get him out in the season. By Rami, Invisible Albanians, I've been calling him. And Yanis Hadji needs a new contract.
Okay, great summary throughout the midfield there. Ryan, something I want to pick up on there with Diamande. Like Scotty said there, a lot of folk kind of find him an enigma. I think it's interesting if looking at our top 5 players for goals and assists. He appears in both lists, top 5, 5 goals and 4 assists. So he's obviously doing something right to be getting into those lists. What are your thoughts on him, and then the sort of the midfields in general?
Yeah, I think if you remember at the start of the season, we were experimenting with him as a number 10, and it just didn't work at all, to be honest. He's miles off it. So I think he's found his kind of true position for us. He needs to work in his discipline a wee bit, to be honest with you. He seems to pick up a lot of kind of really silly bookings, to be honest with you. I think he needs to work in his kind of physicality a wee bit as well. I think the first goal we lost against Dundee United at Tannadice from the long throw-in just seemed to get barged off the ball out of the way, quite easily. So there's improvement to be made there. I think the boys are talent, to be honest with you. I think he will get sold on for half decent money, but I don't think you're talking the mega riches that some of the other boys are talking about. But I think he'll command a half decent fee if and when he goes. But we'll see on him. He's doing enough, but I think they're still better. I think still more to come.
It's interesting you pick up the yellow cards. Had I put a top 5 of yellow cards, Diamande would be number 1 on that list. So you're definitely right there. He picks up those. Jeff Day and Raskin just behind him with 9 each as well. So combative, I think, are those players there. Mitch, what about yourself? Who in the midfield? If I take Raskin out the picture, he's been the obvious one, and you signposted that from the beginning. So if I take Raskin off the table, who out with that has impressed you from midfield this year?
Diamande, hands down. Diamande does a lot of work off the ball that probably goes unnoticed by, let's call it, a lot of the Rangers dads. You know, he does a lot of power work, getting back, tracking back, winning his recoveries. He must be in the top 2 or 3 within the squad for his recoveries, and his tackles, and he's winning his duel percentages. I think he's going to benefit, I think, from having a bit more free roam within the team, and I think we're starting to see that the last few weeks, where for some reason there was a period there the team looked to be allergic to shooting from outside the box. Like, apparently if you shot outside the box, Phil was going to shoot you. But now he started shooting from without the box, and the balls went back into the mix some more. No coincidence, the man behind doing all of that is Diamande. And 2 things, I think that's two cogs of the wheel working at the same time there. He's getting further forward. He's doing really well. And Diamande, I would say, is my Rolls Royce in there. I would say, Scotty's point about Hadji, I have no issue with a new contract going his way. provided the money's right. If it's the rumoured 30 grand a week that he was wanting, obviously, with the previous contract, absolutely not. If it's on something similar to what he's on just now, fine, fair enough, fantastic, keep him. But he's still not a 30 grand a week player, just like Tom Lawrence isn't a 30 grand a week player, but, you know, we're still paying him it anyway. But, you know, I do still think when the summer comes, we're probably going to need 2 or 3 more bodies within the midfield. Whether that be, obviously we've got Lyle Cameron coming in, who's the natural replacement to Tom Lawrence, but I still think we need cover for Nico at the 6 and probably 1 more body in there for me to feel completely comfortable.
That's fair. I definitely agree on Hadji. I was a big proponent of getting him back in the team, and I think he's shown us exactly why that's the case. So we're getting on to the hour there. So as the comment popped up, this will remind everyone, if you have enjoyed the show tonight, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you hit the bell, I'll let you know of any videos we have upcoming. There's plenty of content coming on the channel, as I say, on match days and on other days. Thanks everyone for your comments. We've had loads of really good comments tonight across the different players. So just to finish up, I'll just go through each of you if you just want to say who your player of the season so far is, and say goodnight to the guys watching. So start off with you, Ryan.
Sure. Play the season so far for me. If you'd asked me a couple of months ago, I was going to tell you Barron. Probably the emergence of Igamari. Can I make one other point just before you go?
Yeah.
See for the people that say that we shouldn't be spending 6.75 or 6, whatever it is, for Cerny, and we want to buy somebody cheaper than that, look at Bezrami. If you spend £3 or £4 million on a mid 20-year-old internationalist, that's what you get. You know, you end up with somebody like Bezrami. Look at Bezrami's performance against Cerny's performance. That's why we should be spending the money in Cerny, because otherwise you'll end up with somebody like Bezrami. But sorry, Igamani, player of the year so far, just purely in it. Phoenix like the Flames, following the way he's come up.
Cool. Excellent choice there. And Mitch, what about yourself?
I'm going to take my CD9 glasses off for the minute. And I have to say Nico Raskin, you know, and it's one of these ones. I've never been so happy to be proven right in my life as what I am with young Nico. I think people wrote him off last year, and he quite clearly went through a tough time of it on and off the pitch. Whatever was going on went on. And I think he's actually a big credit to the manager as well for the work that he's done, obviously, individually with him to get him back to being the player that he is now. And I absolutely delighted for him, you know, to see the form that he's got. Gordon, I will be seeing you afterwards. Thanks very much, son. I've just seen his comment pop in there.
And finally, what about yourself, Scotty? Who's your player of the season been so far?
I really think if Suter doesn't get that injury against Tottenham, it's Suter. I think Suter's been absolutely outstanding this season. I think he's reached a level that none of us thought that he could reach pre-injury. I mean, like that night against Tottenham, he was being outstanding. He was being absolutely brilliant. He was a rocket hearted defence. How we managed to still get a draw is a credit to the team. For me, I'm just for the sake of choosing somebody different, I'm going to go with Suter, but I probably would be leaning towards more Raskin. Igaman's there's still going to be wee kind of hot and cold patches for him, but the cold patches are going to be a lot smaller than the hot patches are. I'll go with John Suter.
I think it's a really good choice. Like you say, he's really come into his own. I think this season he's become a Rangers centre back this season, as well as just being a good centre back. And touching on when we were talking about Butland, I thought Butland immediately looked a bit more comfortable with Suter back in the defence as well. So good choice there, Scotty. So just rounds up for me. Pick my own. I think I'll pick James. No, I will go for Cerny. I think for mine, I think Raskin is an excellent shout as well. I would be tempted to go for him, but for myself, I'm going for Cerny, partly because he does remind me of Ryan Kent, which is why I made that comparison earlier. He's dynamic. He pushes forward when we need that little extra bit of skill and sort of technical edge to dig out a goal or an assist. I think he's been there in a lot of the games, and we'll get more out of him for the rest of the season as well. So I will pick him. So it just remains for me to say thank you again to everyone who's been tuning in. We've had a great stream tonight, loads of great opinions. Thank you to the guys, Ryan, Mitch, and indeed Scotty, for popping in and joining us this evening. This has been the Rangers Journal, and just remember that every night is Rangers Journal night. Thanks very much.